Spanish, a language spoken by over 450 million people. And yet, whenever it appears in movies or TV shows, there seems to be no one in the room who actually speaks it to prevent silly mistakes from happening. This is their story. I can do it all on my own. I'm no Superman. I'm no Superman. I love Scrubs. It is up there with Community and How I Met Your Mother as one of my top sitcoms ever. It was a show smart enough to be silly when it wanted.
Give me a box of kittens stacked.
And to be serious when it had to.
Where do you think we are?
Although sometimes it was silly when it didn't want to, and in a bad way. Today we're gonna be looking at 2 episodes from Season 7. Episode 4, My Identity Crisis, and Episode 7, My Bath 2. In My Identity Crisis, Carla is sad because she just had a dream in English, which is weird for her because she always dreams in Spanish. As she explains later, she feels that she's losing her connection with her heritage and her identity. She speaks Spanish several times in the episode, and I love all those scenes. When I watched this episode for the first time, I couldn't speak English, and I watched it with subtitles, and so those short moments when I could understand what they were saying felt great, to be honest. It felt like when a friend gets you a small but meaningful gift. Later, Dr. Kelso also says a phrase in Spanish,
Sí, es lo más molesto.
which was also fine. In fact, we are near the end of the episode, and there's nothing to complain about. Until we reach this goddamn scene. It is the dream Carla had in English at the beginning of the episode, but now it is in Spanish. First, Carla says,
Matarme. Elliot no te lo permitirá.
Matarme? Elliot no te lo permitirá. And then Elliot replies,
Seguro que lo haré.
Seguro que lo haré. She speaks with an accent, but that's fine. I mean, I'm not like French people who demand perfect pronunciation with their accents. In my opinion, if I can understand what you are saying, you are speaking correctly. So far, so good. But then Elliot says something. When I first saw this episode, I had absolutely no idea what she said. I've showed this clip to many of my friends and family, and they cannot figure this out either. The only reason I have any idea what she's saying is because Carla had this dream in English at first, and because I could listen to it over and over. And after listening to it for like 40 times, I think that she says, Me dejará criar a Izzy, or maybe Turk me deja criar a Izzy. But I'm not sure. Her pronunciation of the first phrase was fine. I knew what she was saying, but her pronunciation of the second phrase is awful because it's so hard to understand. It sounds to me like she's trying to speak without her tongue touching the rest of her mouth. And her intonation is almost robotic, especially contrasted with the first phrase. Seguro que lo haré, Turk me deja criar a Izzy. And then she says,
Finalmente tendré un bebé.
Finalmente tendré un bebé. Which is also fine, but also makes it even weirder. Like, why did she say the first and third phrase correctly, but the second one so terribly wrong? Also, the first time I saw this, I was so confused by the second phrase she said that I didn't understand the next one. And that was old school TV. There was no way to go back. If you missed it, you missed it. Anyway, then JD speaks, and he says,
Y puedo pasar el resto de mi vida con el Turk.
Y puedo pasar el resto de mi vida con el Turk. Again, he speaks with an accent, but understandably, which is excellent. Except he says, el Turk. I don't know what is this fascination English speakers have with Spanish articles like el or los. They make so much emphasis on them, and they try to use them all the time. But I'll give you a tip. Spanish and English use articles in pretty much the same way. If you wouldn't use the word de in English, then the same phrase in Spanish almost surely doesn't use articles either, and vice versa. So if your friend's name is Turk, you wouldn't say, spend the rest of my life with the Turk. No, you would say, spend the rest of my life with Turk, right? Although, I should mention that in some places they do use articles before proper names, like in Sinaloa, in Mexico. But I don't think they knew this when they made this scene. Then JD goes on.
Recorriendo todos los mejores water parks del mundo.
Recorriendo todos los mejores water parks del mundo. Again with the robot voice. Do you guys hear how when he says water parks, he switches like if he was some kind of automated answering machine?
Recorriendo todos los mejores water parks del mundo.
To talk to management, press 4. Recorriendo todos los mejores water parks del mundo. And for that matter, why does he say that in English? We know what a water park is and we call them parques acuáticos. Why not just say that? Los mejores parques acuáticos del mundo. Then he says,
Lista, Elliot!
Lista, Elliot. And that's fine. And then he says,
Despejate!
Despejate! Which is weird. Before using a defibrillator, doctors usually say clear in English and despejen in Spanish, but not despejate. Verbs in Spanish can be conjugated to mean many things. One of them is the imperative mode, which is used to give orders, and it can change depending on how many people are doing the order and the object of that order. My favorite example is the word úntesela. Untar means to rub over. Úntese is an order given to a single person, and úntesela means that you are ordering someone to rub some specific thing all over their body. And as a plus, you are being very polite about it because you are using the formal conjugation. When doctors say despejen, it is an order given to many people to move away, and there is no object of this order. If I said despejenlos, I would be ordering many people to move other people away. But despejate is an order given to a single person, and the object of that order is that same person. In English, that would be like clear yourself out, or something like that. It's something you would say to someone who is stressed or confused, as in clear your mind. It's not something I'd say to someone if I want them to move away. And finally, I'm almost certain they use Google Translate here, because they just translated kill Carla as mata Carla, and literally slapped it on the machine. But no. Verbs in Spanish can be very complex and they have a lot of subtleties. For instruction manuals, lists, labels on buttons, or things like that, we almost always use the infinitive conjugation. A conjugation that denotes the action as an abstract. It is not happening and no one is doing it. Seeing that conjugation in a button or a dial gives the idea of what the machine can do if you use that button. And I actually thought that was it, but then I found this bonus dumb mistake. Here, Turk is listening to tapes to learn Spanish, the Duolingo of the Stone Age, and for a second we hear what the tape says.
¿Cuándo es? What time is it?
¿Cuándo es? What time is it? But no. Turk, I don't know how much Glenn charged you for those tapes, but they are clearly a scam. ¿Cuándo es means the same as when is it, as in when is his birthday or when is the appointment. If you want to ask for the time, you say ¿qué hora es?, which means what hour is it? This kind of mistake baffles me. It's something so easy to get right, it must take more work to get it wrong. I have no idea how this happens. And then we have the next episode, which actually has so many phrases in Spanish and there's so much wrong with them that I'm gonna need to make an episode just about it. I mean, look how long it took me to take apart these 5 phrases. But before that, let's address the elephant in the room. Judy Reyes, the actress who plays Carla, speaks Spanish, and she was in the room when this was recorded. She must have noticed what was going on. But this is not her fault. For starters, that's not her job. It's the director's job. The director is who should be making sure everyone else is doing a good job, not her. And the other actors should have tried a little harder. I mean, I know it must be hard to memorize lines in a language that you don't speak because you have to memorize the sounds and you are not sure what they mean, so you don't know how to modulate your voice. It's hard, but that's why they pay you to do it. But they probably had to do many other scenes and memorize many other lines. But in the end, the problem has to be that no one cares. Carla spent a whole episode talking about how her language was a part of her identity, so you'd think they'd put more effort into getting it right. If the producers had cared, they would have hired a language coach to help the actors deliver their lines in a believable way. If the director had cared, they would have had someone around to check the audio, and they would have done it over and over until it was right. But in the end, I think only the writers cared. I mean, they wrote the episode. I want to believe this is not what they had in mind when they wrote it. Anyway, if you have any suggestions of bad Spanish I should take apart, please leave them in the comments. And stay tuned, because the next episode is gonna have a lot more bad Spanish. It gets so bad, it's not funny anymore.